This video is sponsored by Forge and Foster. More on them later. There sure is a lot of Pokemon going around right now. It's quite hard to avoid it actually, with Game Freak churning out lots of exciting games and paving the way for future installments as well, but it got me thinking about how the general public views these games and how easy Pokemon has become over the years. Yes, that's likely a step taken to make the whole franchise more accessible for newcomers, but it's very easy to look at the lack of difficulty and lament that Pokemon just ain't as good as it was back in my day. You know, back when Pikachu and Porygon were teaming up to give kids seizures and Jinx was all sorts of problematic, but every time I hear this argument, I like to remember that virtually all of these games are rated E for everyone, which is specified in Europe as generally being for 3-year-olds and older. And hey, I've got a 4-year-old at home, and while a lot of Pokemon would be perfectly manageable for him, these games have gotten crazy difficult in the past. If it's a challenge for 26-year-old me, then damn, maybe Pokemon does need to be easier sometimes. Or maybe just better balanced across the board with a more natural progression of difficulty? One step at a time, alright? The original plan was to make this with the usual top 5 format and, rank what are the hardest fights in all of Pokemon, but then I realised that difficulty is very subjective and we need something more freeform. And I think it's good to switch up your style sometimes, and thanks to today's sponsors Forge and Foster, who make some very fancy watches, you can do just that quite easily. I really do like having sponsors that I can wear in a video because I like to test if you're paying attention. Like, do I just wear nice watches now? I absolutely do. If there was one thing missing from my life, it was a stylish way of telling the time. And thanks to today's sponsors Forge and Foster, I can do that whenever I want. They've sent me this stunning mechanical watch that fits perfectly on my wrist that I like to stare at sometimes so I can see all the mechanisms whirring away inside. And I also love the finish on this particular model, it looks extra classy. If you want one of these bad boys for yourself, then you're in luck because you can get 20% off Forge and Foster watches by going to forgeandfoster.com/RabbidLuigi or by clicking the link in the description if that sounds more fun. It's time to get a new watch. Yeah. Anyway, let's find out how fucking insane Pokemon can be. When it comes to looking around for the hardest Pokemon battles that have ever existed in these games, the best place to start was always going to be the super bosses. RPGs are funny like that, with how they always save a few insane challenges for the post-game that pushes the limit of how strong a boss fight can be, and how powerful you need to become in order to topple this massive problem. Generally, Pokemon likes to send you to some island where you can earn points by beating a bunch of trainers in a row, but from time to time, these games do throw up something extra special to reward you for fighting off just that many children and their pets. Gen 2 is extra special, since the late Satoru Iwata's giant gamer brain helped to compress this gen down enough to squeeze Kanto in there just for fun, and so the post-game has an extra 8 gym badges to sink your teeth into. After that, I don't think you're ever told explicitly where to go next, but you'll end up stumbling across Mount Silver with its super powerful Ursa-rings and a cheeky little cave that is mostly here to build up suspense before the final showdown with yourself from the previous games. You know, the Kanto champion who peaked too soon and is now a washed-up shadow of his former self. Video games are funny. Oh. Red is a very special trainer, and in the Johto games, the kind of final challenge that is sorely absent in the usual Elite Four run. The closest thing you can find is fighting Blue as the Viridian City gym leader, where he'll have something close to his team from Gen 1, with no specific type focus, but that's not enough, and you know it! Red is one of the best ways to do fan service that I've ever seen in any game ever, because it's a callback that plays on your possible experience of playing red, blue or yellow, but one that goes beyond a neat reference and is actually the best fight in the game. Also hard as balls, since the level jump from Blue, likely the last trainer you fought before this, is kind of incredible, and I will always remember the first time I saw that he had a level 81 Pikachu. It's a stacked team even with the early generations nerfing the moveset somewhat, since he's got all 3 fully evolved Kanto starters, a Snorlax that takes no damage, and a fucking Espeon that hits like a meteor striking the earth with great fury. If this sounds like it might be a lot, then make sure you don't play the Johto remakes, where Pikachu is now level 88, and every Pokemon is built to slap you silly and cause you pain. Clearly someone's been busy crafting the perfect team while they feel sorry for themselves. And now all I'm wondering is what has been the hardest non-trainer battle in this franchise? Because you can have your perfectly curated team of 6 Pokemon that cover each other's weaknesses, but it takes a special kind of challenge to solo a team of Pokemon that I've picked out without breaking a sweat. The easiest choice would be Arceus, who you find at level 80 in Gen 4 and is mostly in Heart Gold and Soul Silver to give you some crazy trip into real life. And while the god of all creation in the Pokemon universe is a hefty challenge, you and I both know that there's another legendary Pokemon out there that poses a far greater threat. A threat that goes even beyond having to think about catching it, because no legendary has ever done what Ultra Necrozma did. I don't really want to, okay? Ultra Necrozma is a cruel joke from Game Freak, considering the game it comes from. Ultra Sun and Moon, and really generations 6 to 8, are definitely a step down in difficulty from what came before, since EXP share is turned on by default and can lead to becoming overleveled very easily, and as such, there's not a lot of challenge to be had in these games. For reference, the highest level Pokemon you'll fight as part of the Elite 4 challenge in Ultra Sun and Moon is level 60. Hold on to this information, it'll be useful later when I do my thing. So anyway, the big story conclusion has to happen before then, and I don't really remember what's happening at the time when you go to confront Ultra Necrozma, because I kinda hate the plot of this game for what it did to Luzamine, but there's an emphasis on stopping Necrozma more than catching it, which you should take as the main warning for what's about to happen next. Ultra Necrozma is level 60, which is already much stronger than the level you should be at this stage, but the bad news just keeps stacking higher and higher since it's a Psychic Dragon type, which are the 2 scariest offensive types in the game. Its signature move Photon Geyser has 100 power and 100% accuracy. It has an aura at the start of the fight that raises all of its stats, and finally it has an ability that makes super effective moves 25% stronger. I think that might be all of it. Hopefully I didn't forget anything, but you should understand that the fight against Ultra Necrozma is so heavily weighted against you that there's no shame whatsoever in being fucking annihilated inside 6 turns. Loads of people ran blind Nuzlockes of this generation since Pokemon was kind of easy in the mid to late 2010s, and yet here we've got Ultra Necrozma styling on all these fools and ruining their runs in an instant. Genuinely a good candidate for the hardest thing that Pokemon has ever done, but sadly, the artificial intelligence in these games still can't handle a Zoroark pretending to be a Pokemon weak to psychic moves, and so you can cheese the ever-loving shit out of Necrozma without trying too hard. But for the shock factor, damn guys, can you try and do this more often? By the same logic that you should be looking at super bosses for the hardest Pokemon battle in any given Pokemon game, you can't really discount what generally ends up being the most challenging part of the story: the Elite Four and Champion. Less so with the Elite Four members, since they tend to follow the same trend of sticking to Pokemon of just one type, much like gym leaders, so you're left with the Champions, although not the ones that still focus on one type for some reason. I know Lance likes dragons a lot, and Steven and Wallace have their specialities, but it's much trickier when champions use a variety of different Pokemon and types, and that's exactly what I'm after! Cynthia has pretty much been the gold standard for champion battles since she first burst onto the scene at the end of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, where she quickly gained a reputation for cleaning house of her near-on perfect collection of incredibly powerful Pokemon. Most of them are really hard to get too, so you just know that Cynthia has put the hard yards in to talk to all those people in the underground to get the Spiritomb, and fish in those hard to find tiles for a Feebas to make a Milotic, and, you know, cultivate the purest essence of evil into one super powerful Garchomp. That takes a lot of work. There aren't too many bulletproof strategies to dealing with Cynthia other than to have a dedicated Pokemon for taking down each of hers, and obviously they have weaknesses, but it's not so easy to exploit them. This is compounded so much further in the remakes, where each of her Pokemon are EV trained, with at least one stat maxed out with 252 EVs, and now Cynthia has given them items to cover weaknesses and utilize fancy new techniques. That already tanky Milotic now has a Flame Orb so that Marble Scale pops at the end of turn 1 for 50% more defense. Lucario has an item that makes all of its moves slightly stronger, and Garchomp's Yache Berry drastically reduces its 4 times weakness to ice for 1 attack. So if you get one chance to use Ice Beam, you kinda need 2 chances. The Gen 4 remakes are helped out by the new friendship mechanic where you can survive an attack because of love, which has a chance of letting you cheese your way through a sticky situation, but Cynthia has every chance to completely dominate her way to an easy win against you, and that is a little terrifying. So many of the hardest Pokemon battles are optional, and rightly so, but there's no escaping Cynthia and her relentless Garchomp. It's the sort of fight you'll lose sleep over, I swear. And come to think of it, people sleep so much on the GameCube Pokemon games, and if they're in the market for Pokemon to be more challenging, then they really shouldn't be. Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness are full of unique mechanics that manage to maintain more than a passing resemblance to traditional Pokemon, but also, you steal other people's Pokemon and everything is a double battle, and also grinding is quite hard to do, since there's not a lot of wild Pokemon or repeated battles. It means that you're constantly underleveled and having to juggle managing your money for Pokeballs to catch Shadow Pokemon and then purify said Shadow Pokemon so they're actually useful, but every significant battle comes with Shadow Pokemon to chip down and hopefully catch for your own purposes. It's a lot to do at once, and sure, you could defeat the stronger, more awkward Shadow Pokemon with lower catch rates, but fuck! I want a Suicune for my team! Who gave the bad guys legendary Pokemon? Anyway, this idea reaches a natural head at the end of both of these games, and comparing the final bosses against each other is a great showcase for how to raise the stakes for a sequel. I'm about to spoil both of these games now, so, leave. In Colosseum, the final boss is revealed to be Evice, who you fight straight after defeating Nazgul with his crazy hair and his full team of fully evolved Pokemon in the mid-level 50s. That fight is its own kind of agonizing because NASCAR is a Shadow Metagross with a catch rate of fuck you. But Evice comes immediately after and... oh, you're throwing out level 60s now? With a Scizor that knows Swords Dance and Baton Pass on a team full of Pokemon with massive attack stats already? Yeah, kind of overkill, not gonna lie. If you're making the Shadow Tyranitar look tame by comparison, you might need to stop. Although, let's be real here, overkill does get redefined a bit when you reach the end of XD Gale of Darkness, where you know you need to fight and possibly catch a Shadow Lugia. Again, nice catch rate there. But Greevil fights you straight after with a team full of Shadow Pokemon, including the 3 legendary birds, making this only the second time in Pokemon history that a trainer has had 7 Pokemon under their control after Ghetsis had a Kyurem in Black and White 2. That Greevil fight is like plate spinning with so much to do and keep an eye on, and you're just sat there the whole time chucking balls at incredibly powerful Shadow Pokemon and praying that you've got enough levels so that you don't have to start all of this over again. It's actually a wonderful moment where you can feel Gale of Darkness starting to become too overwhelming, but you slowly turn the tide of battle and earn your way to the end of the game with the music taking on a very similar feel. These games are brilliant experiences that reshape Pokemon in a way that makes it more challenging and definitely stretches your understanding of the mechanics. Yeah, this is apparently suitable for 3-year-olds. Dude, if I saw Shadow Lugia when I was 3, I'd probably just cry. He's fucking terrifying, come on now. Which, I gotta say, is the general sentiment that I took into the latest mainline Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends Arceus, which deviates drastically from solely turn-based combat and introduces some real-time catching mechanics to help give the whole catching Pokemon loop some much-needed dynamism. The fear comes from having giant alpha Pokemon beat the shit out of you as you flail around in a blind panic to send out one of your own critters to fight back for you because your spindly little noodle arms aren't gonna fight off an angry Machamp. It's a game that puts the fear of Pokemon back into you and does kind of change how you approach some of the more intimidating beasties in the game. Suddenly, legendary Pokemon are a lot to handle, and considering how many there are in Sinnoh, that's a hell of a lot on your plate. Hi, gonna spoil this game too right now, so fuck off. Dialga and Palkia are one thing and very flashy at a time when the story needs them to be, and I gotta say that I love the more involved fights with the bombs, that's a lot of fun. Anyway, you know where this is going, so I might as well cut to the chase and say that everything to do with Volo in Legends Arceus makes me so happy. Like, he's a merchant who shows up all the time throughout the story. Of course there was more to it. And really, with a character who looks a lot like Cynthia, it would have been the ultimate tease if you didn't fight Volo in some capacity. And when you know it, he has a bunch of Pokemon that are basically copied straight from Cynthia's team. I don't know of many people who are walking around with Spiritombs, so it kinda gives it away. Or maybe Cynthia copied Volo because she came after? Food for thought. Volo's the strongest trainer of the game, with the same kind of very team that made Cynthia such a huge problem, with the added fun of a Hisuian Arcanine for extra flavour. But Volo's whole stick is that he's a little too obsessed with Arceus and wants to meet him. And so the easiest way of doing that is summoning Giratina to get Arceus' attention, and hey, that's just another legendary to fight and not catch. He's pretty strong, a level 70 legendary with powerful moves and shadow forces like a base 100 power sand attack, but nothing too absurd. I guess it's a little like Greevil with RabbidLuigi, but in reverse and not as bad since you don't have to worry about catching him, and yeah, kinda simple, I suppose. Cool fight, yo!
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
Or, how about a little more? Giratina picking itself off the canvas isn't really the sort of thing you'd expect Pokemon to do, and because of that, it's the perfect way to end off this fight and Legends Arceus in general. Giratina is restored to full health as it morphs into its origin form, but you're not allowed that luxury with any break in this fight, and so you'll likely just barely make it through Giratina the first time and be blown away by having to fight him all over again with your heavily wounded team. Oh yeah, and this technically gives Volo 8 kind of sort of controlled Pokemon, which is the kind of against the odds fight that I love to see in these games. If you ever feel like Pokemon is sliding towards becoming too easy, just remember that there's something like this out there, and Volo does not fuck around. Out here doing his ancestors so proud. So I think Volo and his Giratinas are a little bit more than just one of the hardest Pokemon battles, and actually, I think it might just be one of my favourite battles in the entire history of Pokemon, where the moving parts from the story collide with really tall odds and incredible music, and I just think that Pokemon needs to be really hard sometimes. This has been RabbidLuigi, and if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more in the future, and if you want to watch something right now, there's a video here about games that were rushed but still ended up pretty good. I want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including Scott Riker, the Green Scorpion, and Sarah Mallion. Thank you for watching, and I pray that Scarlet and Violet aren't piss easy.